Hey everyone, TJ Hernandez here with RosterCoach.com, and this is the Week 7 GPP Value Report, where each week I'm going through the featured contests on the main slate for both FanDuel and DraftKings and highlighting the payout structure of each game. And if you haven't yet watched this video, the best way to use this information is to go through it and pick the games that you want to play depending on your goals. So people that are playing DFS just looking for a big score, looking to maximize upside, are going to be looking for games with those big first place prizes, and a lot of times those are going to be really high entry fields, while people that are looking to get a more steady return on their money and minimize risk might not look for that big upside, but might instead look for things like a bigger portion of the field being paid, or a smaller rake, of course, and smaller field whenever possible. So we're just kind of trying to weight all these options depending on what our goals are. And starting here on FanDuel, looking at games up to the $7 level, the first thing we see, once you get up to that $7 level, you get a 1% drop in rake. Now, that might not seem like a huge deal, but especially for people that are mass entering contests, that really adds up. So with this new 16% rake that we've seen over the last few weeks, it's even more important to look for games with a better structure, especially if you are one of those people that's trying to minimize that variance. But a couple games that stand out outside of the Sunday Million with some bigger prizes up top, at least at these smaller buy-ins, we have the $150,000 NFL snap at the $3.33 level. We saw that buy-in change from $4.44 last week, $10,000 to first there. The other snap at the $4 level has $20,000 to first, and then the $225,000 rush at the $5 level has $30,000 to first. Now, of those games, the flattest payout is going to be that $3.33 snap, where we see almost 24% of the field being paid and just under 7% of the money going to first place. Now, you don't double your money if you min cash, and that's also a concern again for anyone that's playing high volume. If you just squeak into the money and you 2x your money instead of something like 1.x here, that's another thing that really keeps adding up over the course of time. So I'm always paying attention to that. The NFL Huddle, the no experience player tournament, is down to $100,000 prize pool from $110,000. But of course, that is one of the flattest payout games, 27% of the field being paid, and you get that 10% rake. So again, if you qualify as an inexperienced player, I really encourage anyone to play that game. We see a big field at the $175,000 dive, which is at the $1 level, but only 3% of the money is going to first place in that game. So if you are playing these low stakes games, that is a pretty good tournament in that the money's spread out relatively evenly. Sunday Million, the big tournament that everybody's looking at, same structure as last week, $500,000 to first, with 23% of the field being paid there. Moving up to the games priced above $10, the games that stand out with the biggest prize pools, we have the Kickoff at the $12 level, that's offering $30,000 to first. The Bomb at the $33 level, offering $75,000 to first. And then we have the Blitz and the Monster, both offering $100,000 to first. So again, those are the biggest contests, or at least biggest first place prizes that we see above the $10 level. The game that's paying out the most is the Bomb, paying out 22% of the field. If we look at all of these games, the Sweep, which is a single entry game at the $25 level, is paying out 25% of the field. That's the largest portion of the field above the $10 level. So if you're somebody that's looking to minimize variance, that's a really nice contest. Less than 4,000 entries, a chance to turn your $25 into $10,000. And again, that single entry with the flat payout structure is going to put you on a really even playing field with everybody else. But if you're looking for those big paydays, the Bomb isn't too bad either. 22% of the field being paid, with 15% of the money to first place. If you're looking for a six-figure score and you are playing these higher stakes games, again, we're going to see worse structure, or at least a steeper structure, with about 20% of the field being paid and 20% of the money going to first. But you do get that rake drop, 12% rake at the Blitz and 10% rake on the Monster. So that's definitely worth noticing. FanDuel, it did add another high buy-in game. We see the $100,000 NFL Sweat. That's $750 buy-in. That's new this week. Before, the Luxury Box was the only high-stakes game below that $1,000 buy-in level. But now we see this Sweat, 7.4% rake, with a chance to win $15,000, just 144 entries in that game. So if you're playing higher stakes games, I do like those small contests, high buy-in. You only have to beat 144 people to bring home $15,000. So that's a really good contest, at least in terms of lower variance. Moving on over to DraftKings, 2 games priced below $10 buy-in with a pretty big first place prize. We have the $1.5 million play action with $100,000 going to first. That game is paying out 27% of the field, but you're facing over 500,000 entries, so the structure is good, but the field is huge, so you kind of lose some of that safety with a field that big. And then up at the $8 level, we have the post pattern, which is offering $50,000 to first. That game is paying out 24% of the field, and 12.5% of the money is going to first place. So of these games priced below the $10 level on DraftKings, that is one of the steeper payout structures. But if you were looking for a big first place prize, that's probably the game you're going to want to play if you can afford to do so, just because that play action I mentioned is a massive field. The post pattern, you're playing 10% of the size of the field, less than 60,000 entries in that game. Still a really big field to try to beat, but the only way to really get big upside on your money. Some relatively smaller contests with flatter payout structures. The $40,000 pylon, which is a single entry game at the $3 level, is paying out almost 28% of the field. And then we have a couple other games paying out 27%. The $10,000 safety at the $2 level and the $20,000 front four at the $4 level. Now those games only have first place prizes of $500 and $1,000 respectively. But again, smaller fields, really big portion of the field being paid out. If you're going to play these lower stakes with this high rake, that's something that you might want to look for if you're looking to minimize that variance. And of course, once you get up past that $5 level, that's where we start seeing the rake drop. So again, that's something very important to pay attention to. And moving on up to these games priced above $10, the big game, the millionaire, of course, same structure as last week, $4 million prize pool, $1 million to first place. So no changes there. The only other games offering a relatively big prize at the higher stakes games, we have the Power Sweep at the $150 level with $75,000 to first place, but just 22% of the field being paid in that one. And then the Wildcat, the $1.5 million Wildcat at the $333 level, $200,000 first place with a field of $5,000, but just 21% of the field being paid out in that game. If you are playing higher stakes, just like I mentioned on FanDuel, the Juke at the $400 level and the Stiff Arm at the $555 level, both of those games paying out over 25% of the field. So that's really nice for these higher stakes games. Not often you see that, and then you're getting rake below 10%. So I really like those games, a chance to turn your $400 or $555 buy-in into $20,000 or $15,000. The chop block at the $50 level, in terms of a flat payout structure, that one stands out at these higher stakes. Only $1,000 up top, but 26% of the field being paid. The rest of these games, pretty mundane in terms of upside. Again, I've mentioned this before. If I'm going to play a game without much upside, I think it's kind of silly to play a really bad structure. So unless I'm going for those big upside games, I'm just looking for flatter payout, lower rake, because that's just money straight to your bottom line. So those are the games that stand out this week. As always, if you have any questions, hit me up here or on Twitter. Again, TJ Hernandez here with RosterCoach.com. Thank you for watching.